What do you get when you take an extremely strong, independent young woman, a heavenly spoiled brat of a man, and possible inspirations from mythology and folklore? You get the Celestial Robe Affair. The story begins with something I'm not going to show yet because it's a preview to things that is going to happen later. We meet our female lead, Mukdan, meeting a cast member from Netflix Sweet Tooth, not realizing that he was a deer that she helped out a while ago. The deer guy follows Mukdan around, telling her that he wants to repay her for saving him, saying that the heavens will strike him down if he doesn't repay her for her kindness. This is when she turns around and asks him to help her find a husband strong enough to overpower her. The deer guy tells her about how celestial men and women would sometimes come down to earth just to bathe. And this is how both Mukdan and the deer guy come to stare at a bunch of half-naked men, all wet and sparkly. The deer guy talks about how a man can sometimes be very weak in front of a woman if she takes him by the family jewels. Mukdan kind of reacts very loudly to the deer guy's comments suggestion, to which the celestial men finally notice that they are being watched by a human woman and they all get ready to leave right away. Not only does the deer guy run away, making it look like Mukdan was the only one peeping on the celestial men, but he also stole one of those men's robe, claiming it was all for returning the favor for her help. Not wanting to get a man by such means, Mukdan takes the robe from the deer guy and attempts to return it. Sadly, she is also extremely clumsy because she somehow rips the thing in half. Somehow this becomes a thing to the point that Mukdan takes the celestial man home with her because, let's just say, it's silly convoluted reasons, and apparently Mukdan is responsible for stranding him on Earth. His other reason is that he says he is cold, which brings us right back to the preview I skipped over earlier. When they're both in her home, Gangwa says he is still cold inside her home and that they should both share body heat to warm up faster. So that means they got to get naked apparently, to which he goes right down to business. As to why the celestial man seems to be manipulating things, it's because apparently he's been having a hard time doing the do in heaven. One of the women he tried doing the do with suggested that he goes to Earth, that maybe that would fix his problem. Well, it seems like her advice was bang on because he took our little Mukdan all night long. The only thing about the art style that I'll comment and not sound like a broken record will be both about Mukdan and Gangwa's. Starting with Gangwa, he obviously has very feminine look about him, despite also having a six-pack like all other male characters in these stories. At least he isn't huge like Ishikan, All the Men and Under the Oak Tree, or this one other thing. When you usually compare male and female characters, you usually see some differences, like guys having smaller eyes, all being part of the anime style. But you also see them sometimes towering taller than women, like, thank God he isn't. Gangwon doesn't have what I have seen to be very typical of male leads or just male characters in these stories. He has large eyes with more and even longer lashes than Mukdan. His facial features are soft, and I haven't even seen him with the hair tied up yet. Yeah, I also kind of called the guy manipulative earlier in the video. I can't get mad at him for forcing himself on Mukdan too much. She was already prepared for the possibility of sleeping with a man just to know what it felt like. Even though she asked the deer guy to help her find a husband, I kind of have to wonder if she wasn't exactly serious. And since I started talking about Mukdan, let's switch over to her. Despite seeing her in a skirt, she is a lot physically stronger. Maybe? We haven't seen him doing much other than boinking, but she also has a job that requires her to do a lot of manual labor one would see a man do. Whether good or bad, she isn't like Sakura from Danganronpa. More owie. So basically, you wouldn't be able to tell looking at her how tough she is. Honestly, Mukdan reminds me a lot of two other strong women. One from a very good story and one from a very problematic one. Casca from Berserk and May from A May Wedding. And yeah, maybe why she reminds me of Casca and May was also because they have darker skin than the other characters, but this is also something I would like to see more. Just more diversity on how people look and act is refreshing. And I really do like Mukdan. She is another spunky girl who is also all for going against what is considered norm and live her life the best she can, trying new things. I honestly would read a story of her doing more than just being a woodcutter. Or maybe she can continue being a woodcutter, but just have more things happen, just something longer. And speaking of taking what people consider normal and just not doing the normal thing, the myth slash folktale that this was screaming at me the whole time I was reading the story. I mentioned before in my review for The Beast Within how the Beauty and the Beast story came from the Animal Bride folktales. Well, I left a lot of information out. Beauty and the Beast is more Animal Bridegroom, while the other side is Animal Bride, which is this story. Maybe for something more familiar for this audience, I shall use the Selkie folktale. The story begins with a man who comes across a bunch of seals on a beach who take off their seal skins and begin the party. The man steals the seal skin of this one young woman, which turns into coercion, so I would recommend to go watch a really sarcastic productions video on the subject if you want a better and more entertaining summary. But I was surprised with recently learning that this type of story also appears in Asia. Another one of OSP's videos on the cowherd and the Weaver Girl has many of the same story beats. There is also a Korean version. But I would also like to thank someone else I came across by accident that I also think is part of the Monta's Reviewer Club, also posting on YouTube, going by the name of Love Too Much. She mentions in the beginning that this story has some inspiration with another similar story to The Cowherd and the Weaver Girl. It's the one of the Heavenly Maiden and the Woodcutter. Since I ran low on time, this is just based on the Wikipedia page, but it has many of the same story beats but with gender flip scenario. This has many of the same story beats as the Selkie story as well. A guy taking a woman's skin or cloak, taking her home and making her be his wife to have his children. From Wikipedia, it says that the man follows his wife when she goes back to the heavens, and she didn't seem to kick him out, so I guess the relationship wasn't too bad. Slight spoiler, but maybe this story drops a hint and it's kind of like Kubo and the Two Strings? Who knows? The only way you might find out is if you go check it out on Manta. The Celestial Robe Affair is one out of 8 stories now available on the Glimpse Inside. All 8 stories are relatively short too, so it's good for those who want to get through a story quickly and not wait forever for some stories. Though sadly these stories aren't part of the unlimited catalog that comes with the subscription, but if you do spend gems on getting these, you will get some back. There is also the possibly inspired by the Apothecary Diaries, a story about romancing the second male lead. And this one reminds me of this thing in some Asian cultures that have this thing with the 12 and 20 positions. Google at your own risk. There is also this other one I didn't take a look at, but it looks like an office romance. This other one about a girl not wanting to give her first time to this old guy. Another one literally called Seducing a Childhood Friend, so it's pretty obvious. And the last one gives me too much of F my ex energy from the title alone, so I fully decided to skip it. This promotion is good until May 22nd. It also looks like there are non-dirty versions for those who aren't comfortable with smut, so pick whichever one you prefer. Always remember to support the official release, yada yada. We could go broke making, this free entertainment, so please pay the people when you enjoy the art and stories. We would all appreciate it 1000%. I hope you all have an awesome day.